Hello, I'm Philip Stoughton. I'm here on the last day of Apex. We're on the Co-Young booth and I'm talking to Alison James from IPC. Alison, great to see you again. Thanks for stopping by to chat. Last time we spoke, I think it was Electronica, and I thought, okay, it's only a few months, not much will have happened, but a lot has happened. A lot has happened in politics. Let's focus initially on what's been happening in Europe. And this kind of shift in thinking around defense expenditure, European Union raising the rule or changing the rules with respect to debt ceilings, that's a big deal.
Phil, it's a very big deal. So we met in November, and a lot of this has taken place over the last 2 weeks. Almost on a weekly and a monthly basis, something else is happening because we're in this, different time and geopolitical times. But defense, there's been a sea change. It's been coming for a while, but obviously the situation has been made clearer in the last weeks that Europe needs to be more self-sufficient. And then we could see that when they need to, the European Union can rally pretty quickly. And they did. They've recognized, of course, we need to be more self-sufficient in defense. So indeed, this week, all of these proposals have been made, and we still have to see the implementation, and now the focus will be on implementation. The Council, from memory, should be meeting today, so there should be discussions in the European Council. But it's a huge move for Europe. It really is, as you said, it's allowing the member states to have the fiscal space that they could invest in defence. They couldn't do that previously. We've got these strict competition rules. There's also a directional white paper looking to the future of European defence, and we'll be, again, wanting to work with that. But this is, it's really a sea change in Europe, recognising that in critical areas we need more autonomy. We've heard that before, we've been talking about it at a European level, but now we're starting to see in key areas the implementation. So actually we released a report this week on defence, knowing that the white paper was coming. You know that last year we issued a report on securing the European Union's electronics ecosystem, and in that we talked about all of the critical infrastructure, the areas in which Europe has vulnerabilities in the electronic supply chain. So that was across 8 critical sectors. And this time we honed in on the defense sector specifically. And we issued, so really it was a data study with Decision, again, Decision, our partner, the French consultancy who work a lot for the European Commission. And it's a really good report. It's giving a data-rich report on the value of electronics, where we'll be by 2035. 25% of the value of defense systems will be electronics.
I was going to say it's actually a huge electronics-led industry. I mean, technology is driving most of the way things are done.
Yeah, it is, and yet we continue to have many vulnerabilities, as you know, in Europe in the electronics value chain. So I think the message again is, as we look to build our defense industrial base, let's make sure that we're taking account of our own electronics base and making sure that we're building that up so that we can meet our own needs, because it's a vulnerability.
In the short term, there seems to be a bit of a renegotiation of the US-European relationship, and that's definitely having an impact, not just from an EU standpoint, but by country. And we're seeing countries increase their defense budget kind of one by one. So they're all having a response to this. So it looks like it's going to happen pretty quickly in terms of defence requirements, in terms of of budgets increasing and orders being placed. With respect to the European Union, the European government, will that be able to keep pace? There's kind of a sense that things go a little bit slower. I mean, I know things happen here much faster because one signature and it's done, but there's a requirement for due diligence, but there's also a requirement to move quite quickly.
So I think in the defence area, they're really moving quickly. It's we had a little bit of a precedent with the European Chips Act, which by European standards was fast. There's also a downside to that, because with the Chips Act, there was no real industry consultation before that happened. Because there's a flip side. In the defence area, they've also moved very, very quickly. We were able to get our paper in during the process, which was very good. But they're speeding things up. So already by June, there will be another proposal for simplification and omnibus for the defence area. They've got triggering of enabling fiscal space would happen immediately. And then there's another program which enables joint procurement amongst member states. And again, proposals would be coming in quickly, and that would run for a couple of years. So these are fast-tracked. They're really fast-track programs. So we can move quickly when we need to in Europe, but it's quite unusual. And for Europe, this is fast. This is a fast enabling of resources.
We've seen quite a few European EMS companies here, which I think has been really interesting, and quite a few of them taking part in the EMS Leadership Summit. That was nice to see. A lot of them are very positive about this news with respect to defence. A lot of them have, somewhere between 10 and 30% of their business perhaps in the defence sector. So I think that's interesting. But it's good to see, at least on a company-to-company level, that there's really good relationships between the US and Europe, and European companies are still looking to the Americas as an investment opportunity. They just can't decide where at the moment because they're not sure where the tariffs are going to fall.
It's created a lot of uncertainty. All the trade environment now is businesses need certainty, right? And this is what everybody's finding right now. With tariffs, also with regulation and simplification, it's a lack of. None of this can happen overnight. Industrial bases are built around tariff structures and existing tariff structures. So changing that, or not knowing if it's changing, has massive impact. So we feel it in Europe also with the tariffs on steel and aluminium, and the European Union's response to that, I think, which has been delayed. Again, uncertainty. This is the climate that we're in at the moment. It's not easy for businesses.
I mean, it's disruptive, but I was talking to a few EMS guys and they said to me, hasn't it always been so? Haven't we always had disruption in this industry? But I think this is
special.
This is a bit more than we're used to. With respect to tariffs coming out of Europe, is that something that's an EU decision rather than member states?
The member states still obviously have. So the European Union negotiates on behalf of the member states, but obviously with the input of member states. So there can be, if the member states don't agree, then obviously there's no mandate to do that, right? So I know there have been issues now with the tariffs also around alcohol and exports to the US, and some member states obviously are big exporters of alcohol.
And feel differently about it.
They do. So, and that often happens in the trade environment, that the European Union can take a decision, but then the country that the EU is negotiating with can have separate relations with each member state. It can be divide and conquer.
Because they have different agendas.
They do have different, and different export markets and products. So.
Before we go, let's have a little bit of a run through of the IPC activity with respect to government relations that you have planned for this year.
So currently there's a lot happening around defence with the release of our white paper and our industry paper this week. We released it on Monday. But that's a continuation of what we've been working on for a number of years now, which is really having this understanding in the European Union that we need to build up the electronics space. So that continues. That takes time. I think we talked about it in November, that we've been working and with a coalition of electronics associations and companies across the European Union, because we all need to be speaking with one voice. And that's important because we start coming up to a revision of the European Chips Act. More and more issues are happening around technological sovereignty. There's more stock taking. We were talking off camera about AI earlier, and of course there was the issue with importing AI chips, divide and conquer again amongst member states. So where does Europe sit on AI? So many things are happening. There's increasing stock taking that we need a strong technology base in Europe. What happens is there's not always an understanding that technology means electronics underneath that. So there's really a lot of work to continue to do to make the case for a resilient, not making everything in Europe, but it's critical. So having
but thinking
a
about the
minimum
whole supply
autonomy
chain
threshold of the supply chain. And that's what we're talking about.
And that silicon to system is really important for people to understand. And when they look at AI, I think people look at AI as a software solution, but the hardware, the energy provision, there's a lot behind that. One of the challenges for you is the fact that you've got to turn on a dime. You've got to be super agile. You've got to respond really quickly because things are just moving so fast now. Is that it? Do you have structure and the team there to be able to do that?
Yeah, we do, and we also have the knowledge and expertise of all of our companies.
Yeah.
You know, so we're working in very close collaboration with the experts are in the companies. We know the policy environment, we know what to do with that, but the expertise comes from the companies. And IPC, of course, is growing in Europe. We have a larger staff. So I think we have a very good team in place and a very good company structure in place in Europe.
I think what's really nice is you have the great team in Europe, but you have access to the rest of the team. So through the work you're doing with Chris Mitchell and with Richard, you're able to get a viewpoint on what's going on elsewhere, and that actually is hugely valuable.
That is hugely valuable, because knowing from our colleagues and from Chris and Rich, as you said, what's happening in the US, what's happening in Asia, that really feeds the discussions that we have in Europe, because we can say on an evidence basis, we know what's happening in the supply chain. We know where the vulnerabilities are. So absolutely, we talk all the time, we work together.
Absolutely.
That enriches the debate.
It does. Absolutely. Alison, thanks so much for stopping by to chat. Always a pleasure, and we'll be talking again soon, and the world will have completely changed.
It will have. Give it another 2 weeks, something else will have happened.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.